Kau rangitiranga, i ngā mana i ngā reo, tēnā koutou. Tuku atu ana ngā mi mahana ki a koutou kuihui nei ki rongi i tēnei kaupapa. Nau mai, hara mai, whakatau mai. Hui noa te whare, tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings, warm greetings to you all on this beautiful Auckland morning. My name is Claire Johansen. I work for the Human Rights Commission. I'm the Indigenous Rights Commissioner. But we are working closely in partnership with AWA, focusing on collective impact. We like to work in partnership and to reach out to our communities and work in that way. We're the agents, we aren't the front people. And so you'll be hearing a lot from AWA today. But welcome to the latest instalment of the Human Rights Commission's Indigenous Rights Information Series. I can see a few faces, people who were here at our first forum, having a look at the declaration and its effectiveness over the last 10 years with respect to Māori in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So the series of events and activities taking place over the course of the year is designed to lead up to the 10th anniversary next year of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which we affectionately call UNDRIP. The overall aim of the series is to promote awareness of UNDRIP, to promote discussion about what it means for us here in Aotearoa, New Zealand today, and to promote and encourage action and implementation of the rights and standards it contains. And today, as you know, the focus is on international reporting, on the processes, and how to use them to get movement on Māori human rights issues. It's going to be really practical series of conversations, I hope. We're really thrilled to have to be working alongside Awa. Great to meet Papa and Hector and Swari. Ka tuku atu aku mi nui ki a koutou, o Awa, tēnā koutou. I think we're going to be doing a lot of work together. So I must also acknowledge and welcome the representatives, Lauren and Teresa here today. Got up at 5 o'clock this morning in Wellington, windy, wet Wellington, to catch a plane to come up to be with us here today. From the Ministry of Justice, we work closely with the Human Rights team in the Ministry of Justice in relation to international human rights reporting. So this hui also overlaps and coincides with a series of other public meetings being held this week to discuss key human rights issues as we head towards some really important international engagements. Next year, and you'll hear more about this as the morning goes by, 2 United Nations expert bodies will review New Zealand's human rights performance and will make recommendations to our government for improvement. New Zealand will report to the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, that's in July, August, and to the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, September, October of next year. These reports and the examinations, as they're called, are really heavy interviews focused on the New Zealand government. The New Zealand government is an interview process in which New Zealand government officials, often led by ministers of the Crown, are examined on the realisation of human rights in the particular area that the meeting has been designed for. So these reports and examinations by these committees in particular are hugely important because they include a particular focus on some of the key human rights issues affecting Māori. And they will provide an opportunity to raise those issues in a high-level international forum and to seek some clear recommendations for action. So clear international recommendations for domestic action from these very influential expert bodies. As part of these reporting processes, and this is what we're here for today, there are opportunities for NGOs, organisations and members of the public, all of you, all of us, to have a say and provide your own perspectives on those issues. And that's why we are here today, to start those conversations and hopefully begin preparation for these opportunities. So we're beginning to prepare for these reporting opportunities. And our aims for today are, just to reiterate, are to share information, begin the discussions. We also hope that today gives some opportunity for you to connect with one another and perhaps connect with people, organisations that you may wish to work together with in the future particularly over the next few months, to engage with these international processes. So we'll be looking at it, having a general overview of international reporting processes, looking at the upcoming reporting opportunities with the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights in particular. We have some information to provide and tools to assist you to start preparing your own reports. We're here to share information on funding processes, probably the biggest barrier for Indigenous groups getting to those international fora, and the opportunities to grab. And we want to share information and experiences from those who have previously participated in international reporting. We're extremely fortunate to have Dr. Claire Chavez with us here today to share some of her deep knowledge and experience of the international system, as well as lecturing and researching this area. Claire has worked for several years within the United Nations system and also has considerable experience advocating for Indigenous rights through those international forums. Claire is currently acting as an expert advisor to the United Nations. Earlier this year she was appointed by the President of the United Nations General Assembly to advise him on enhancing Indigenous peoples' participation in the United Nations. That's a big piece of work which is going on at the moment. We're also extremely lucky to have with us today a number of people who have participated in the international reporting processes, and I look forward to hearing from Papa and others about their recent experiences appearing before the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, which had some very important recommendations for New Zealand, I might say. I'm sure there are others of you who have valuable experiences to share, and we'll try to make some time, and we'll do our best to make some time and space for you to do so in the course of the day. Later on this morning we'll also start to look further into some of the key issues that might be raised with the committees. We hope to hear which issues are most important to you and provide an opportunity for you to discuss in groups the sorts of issues you want to raise in these fora, and begin thinking about potential recommendations and solutions you would want to suggest to the committees. Working together on this is pretty powerful. It's that collective impact again. Some of the issues you may want to talk about, there may well be others that you'd like to add to the list. We'll come back to it. But we wanted to start with a list, just a suggestion list, and I'm sure these are really what has brought you here today, the issues that are important to you and to your whānau and communities up and down the motu. So, key issues raised by international bodies in recent years in relation to Māori include legal and constitutional recognition and protection of Te Treaty of Waitangi and Indigenous rights, the need to strengthen government responses to the treaty settlement processes, particularly redress and implementation of Waitangi Tribunal recommendations, and that includes Y262, mechanisms for consultation and participation, and the importance of securing free, prior and informed consent regarding activities affecting rights to land, the need for greater protection of culture and language, Māori rights to lands and resources, including environmental protection and impact of climate change on rights, disparities and structural discrimination, particularly in relation to education and health, including mental health, employment and justice, adequate standard of living and housing, and, of course, preventing violence against Māori women and children. These are some of the issues and themes that the UN treaty bodies have previously raised with government, made recommendations on, or requested information on. These previous references and recommendations provide an entry point for raising them against the committees, to let them know from your perspective and experience what progress has been made. It's often amazing to be in the same room with government officials who say that X amount of progress has been made, and other people are sitting around thinking, really? Seriously? What progress has been made, what gaps still remain, and what action you think needs to be taken to ensure that these rights are fully realised. So I look forward to some really robust, energetic discussion on these questions a little later, and to hearing your views on the issues. But now it is my very great pleasure to introduce Dr. Claire Chavez to provide you with an overview of the UN reporting system. Claire.
Ko tēnā koutou. Ko Ngāti Whakau e te iwi. Claire Chavez is my name, and I've been working, I don't need a lectern, I've been working in Indigenous rights at the UN level for quite some time now, and I just wanted to sort of share with you to begin with my own story of engagement with the UN. Really just to highlight that, one, it's sort of possible to engage at the UN level, at that international level, and also hopefully to illustrate that it can be something that's useful. So I was quite interested at the end of my degree in Indigenous rights, and ended up doing one of my papers on what was then the draft declaration on the rights of Indigenous peoples. And I remember thinking, oh, well, this is something that could be interesting to me, this is something that I feel a bit passionate about, but how on earth do I, sitting in at that point Dunedin, New Zealand, get involved and get engaged? Indigenous rights being something that I thought that was very important for us, and so how on earth do I do that? And really, this my whole engagement really came up because I wrote a letter to the person who was at the time the head of the Indigenous unit at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and said, you know, is there any possibility that I might be able to come and work with you for free for a little while? And as a result of that letter, I don't know what he responded. I got a letter and said, yeah, come along, we've got these big meetings, we need more hands on deck. And that gave me an opportunity to see the arguments that Indigenous peoples were bringing to and around Indigenous rights on the declaration, what rights that they thought should be in the declaration, and bringing their experiences from home to argue for greater rights at the international level. But really it was just that letter that was really my entree, and meant that I could meet some of the people who were the players in the area. And then subsequently then I also did an externship when I was doing my Masters in New York, so that meant that I could access again the UN. Then it became, as I became an academic, it became the area that I was interested in as well. And so as in conjunction with then working with an NGO called Aotearoa Indigenous Rights Trust here, we would go over each year and negotiate on the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which was eventually then adopted in 2007 by the General Assembly, and I would then write about it in my academic writing. I also was interested when, for example, when the foreshore and seabed issue came up, about how we could use these international processes to raise human rights issues to bring to the fore, bring pressure on the government with respect to human rights.